If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So, an important question. Are you happy and do you know it? I see some, even those who are singing, shaking their heads a little bit because the world right now feels upside down. A place where happiness and joy feel difficult to come by. Increasing political violence, escalating vitriolic rhetoric from both sides of the aisle, widening divisions within our nation, our community, even within our homes and our families. School shootings and gun violence becoming a frightening new normal. Anti-Semitic acts and hate crimes rising rapidly, even in our own backyard, with the arson incident in Punta Gorda over the weekend. Israel still at war after almost 2 years and feeling increasingly isolated on the international stage, while the hostages remain in Gaza for more than 715 days. There's a lot of reasons to not feel quite so happy. Much weighs on our hearts and minds as we enter this new year 5786, and that promised sweetness of Rosh Hashanah may seem distant or unattainable. The positive language that is there in our prayer books we wrestle with as we try to relate to what is happening in our world. Which is why, friends, we need the power of Rosh Hashanah to lift our spirits, as it has done for us and our people before. We are not the first generation to feel the immense discomfort of the weight of the world sitting on our shoulders, or to be at a time when joy seemed unlikely. From antiquity to modern times, Rosh Hashanah has been, as Rabbi Perman called it last night, the mother of all resets. The opportunity to find hope and joy despite all that is going on in our world. 5 years ago, we witnessed this ourselves at the dark hour of the pandemic. At that time, many felt isolated and alone, scared for their health and safety. But Rosh Hashanah lifted our spirits. When sanctuaries sat barren for fear of gathering in person, congregations, including Temple Shalom, broadcast our services to connect with all who could not attend in person. In fact, so many Jewish people tuned in on Rosh Hashanah that many internet service providers reported crashes and outages nationwide. In addition to those remote connection points, we had in-person chances around the holiday to overcome that loneliness. Hundreds of cars drove through our parking lot to pick up prayer books, where we greeted you with masks and gave our holiday baskets so that you could stay connected to us through the holiday season. On Rosh Hashanah itself, you may remember being here in our parking lot, which was full for the drive-in shofar experience, with many sharing afterward the immense joy they felt, and not only being able to hear the shofar in person, but also from being together with their one family at Temple Shalom. Then, as now, Rosh Hashanah is our rekindling of hope and joy, a time when we hold on to and identify with the blessings that we have in our lives. But there are obstacles that make it difficult at times for us to recognize the blessings that we have. We've all experienced those moments when objectively we know we should be joyful, but instead we dwell on the negative. Consider the story of the grandmother who took her grandson to the beach. Dressing him in a new bathing suit and swim shirt and hat, they set up their chairs near the edge of the water. Suddenly, a large wave came crashing down onto the beach, sweeping the boy out to sea. Panicked, the grandmother shouts at the heavens, "Please, God, don't take my only grandson. He's all that I have." A moment later, another wave comes crashing on the beach, placing the boy exactly where he last stood. The grandmother looks at the boy and then shouts at the heavens, "He was wearing a hat." That joke speaks volumes about the stereotypes for Jewish grandmothers, but it also gives us an important glimpse into why we struggle to find joy. Psychologist Dan Gilbert talks about our human inclination to perseverate on what we are missing rather than appreciating the blessings we have. Gilbert explains that there's really two kinds of joy that we experience. There's naturally occurring happiness, like celebrating a simcha, reaching a goal, or winning the lottery. And then there's something he calls synthetic joy. Synthetic happiness is what our brains create by developing a narrative that makes us feel more positive about whatever situation we are in. When there is no other option, our brain synthesizes a story that makes us content with what we have. But Gilbert explains that when we have choices, that deactivates our brain's ability to synthesize happiness because we get stuck wondering which was the better choice to make. Now, this may seem counterintuitive at first. After all, we instinctively prefer when our satisfaction is guaranteed, when we're told you can return it at any time when you're not happy. But when Gilbert ran experiments, he found that those who were asked to choose between two objects, and they were told that once they made their choice, the decision was final, always reported being happier when asked later on than anyone who was told, "Make a choice, but you have 3 days to change your mind." Just knowing they could change their minds caused the participants to worry whether they made the right decision. They spent time focusing more on what they did not have rather than enjoying the prize that was already in their hands. Similar to that grandmother who thought only about the hat and not the miraculous return of her grandson. When we hold on to what ifs or worry more about what we are missing than what we have, we rob ourselves of the fullness of joy that these moments can bring. Being grateful for the blessings that we have, big or small, resonates deeply with the teachings of the rabbis. As we read in Pirkei Avot, who is rich? One who is content with their lot. When we are happy with what we have, not worrying about what ifs, then we are rich in spirit. Over these 10 days, make a commitment to truly let go of the past. Focus your thoughts more on what you have by accepting your choices without reservation. Try your own version of a spiritual tashlich, casting away not only your mistakes, but also things that weigh you down. When you go home after services, I want you to write down all those what-ifs that you are carrying from the last year. Put them on little pieces of paper, and at some point before Yom Kippur, dispose of them. You can throw them in the water if they're dissolvable. Put them in the trash. You can light them on fire, but please be careful. But whatever you do, let this act release you to fully enjoy the blessings that you do have. While we naturally want to pursue happiness as human beings, we've also pondered, as a species, the source of joy. From ancient religions and philosophy to modern psychology and the overflowing self-help section at your local bookstore or Amazon, all want to know the secret of happiness. Robert Waldinger directs the Harvard Study of Adult Development, which started in 1938 and has run continuously ever since. For those not familiar, the study began with more than 700 men, a mix of Harvard students and men from inner city Boston, to study the lives of those individuals. The participants, and over the decades their families, were asked questions and studied, trying to understand what brings them happiness. Having collected a massive volume of data over 9 decades, unheard of scientific research, Waldinger and his team were able to identify key patterns, many of which are striking. Most significantly, even though they had people like titans of business and a future president among their participants, they discovered that fame, fortune, and career success have no correlation with an individual's feeling of joy in their life. What matters more for happiness than any of those metrics is simply having good relationships. They learned that loneliness tends to shorten life, while steady, supportive connections bring joy, better health, mental clarity, and resilience. Now, within the context of relationships, Waldinger emphasizes that quality matters more than quantity. After all, one can feel alone in a crowd or find peace in solitude. But the happiest lives they found from their study are marked by affection, love, and dependable support. Supportive relationships even help us find joy in struggle, and they sustain our body and mind. That doesn't mean you always have to agree with people in your life. He points out that minor disagreements, even bickering, are part of human existence, but chronic conflict can be corrosive. Understanding the value of relationships to our happiness, we recognize the need to strengthen the ones we already have. So I encourage you to use the start of this new year as a time to focus on those who are in your life. Aim to replace screen time with in-person experiences. Make plans to go out, listen to one another, and be present in the moment, leaving your phones on silent or in your pocket. And most especially, make the effort to let go of any grudges you may be holding, granting forgiveness for those who ask, and start this new year with the goal of building on what you already have together. A new year is also a good time to start finding more meaningful connections in our lives. When you think about it, from the time that we are young, many of our relationships outside of our family form because of the people who are in our circle. We bond with classmates and teammates in our youth, as well as those who share our interests. As adults, we meet people through our work, and later we meet the parents of the children who know our children. In each case, we're connected by common threads. Well, this year at Temple Shalom, we are adding a new way to connect with one another. You see it here on our screen, and form meaningful relationships. Circles, giving our members the opportunity to meet others who share their interests. Each circle that we start has a leader and will convene once a month over the course of the year, and then next year we'll restart them anew. You can see on our screen some of the circles that are kicking off this fall, and there are many more yet to come. Note, if there is an interest that you don't see up here, or you want to lead a circle, you can contact Courtney Silhan in our temple office. We can expand the ways that we can build the circles of connections within our one family. Whichever circle you choose to enter, and it can be more than one, this is a great opportunity to find more of those supportive relationships that can bring you joy and give you more happiness this year. But I want to come back to my initial questions. Are we happy? And do we know it? I want to be honest and acknowledge that I look out and I know some of you are still skeptical. You wonder if happiness and optimism are realistic at this time. And that's why I want to share with you the story of Sam Burns, a young man who spent his life as a captive to the idea of hope, living a happy life regardless of the circumstances. Sam's name and face may be familiar, perhaps from his TED Talk or the documentary that was made about his life. While we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders today, believe it or not, Sam carried an even more difficult burden, an extremely rare condition known as progeria. Sam was one of only 350 children globally with the disease. Fatal in nature, progeria causes the body to age rapidly, leading to things like heart disease, physical deficiencies, stunted growth. Sam was only 50 pounds at the age of 17. Yet despite all of these challenges, Sam stayed positive. And his TED Talk was about his happy life, where he shared his philosophy through 3 simple principles. Sam's first rule: be okay with what you ultimately cannot do, because there is so much more that you can do in life. Instead of worrying about the limitations created by his genetics, Sam always stayed focused on his abilities. Rather than letting the what-ifs sap his joy, he used the gifts he had to turn can-nots into can-dos. His favorite example to share came of his dream to play snare drum in a marching band. For those who don't know, a snare drum kit weighs 40 pounds. And remember, Sam himself was only 50. Undaunted, he used his wits and connections to find an engineer who could create a snare drum the right size for him. They succeeded, and as you can see, Sam proudly added playing in the marching band to his list of joys. Sam's second principle: surround yourself with the people you want to be with. He explained that happiness comes from those who are around us, and he would speak often of the joy he took from his circle of friends, many of whom he met through the marching band. They saw him for who he was on the inside, which helped him overcome the loneliness that his disease could create. The time he spent with his friends and family stood out as the happiest moments in his life. Finally, Sam taught that happiness requires looking ahead. His advice was simple: always keep moving forward. Set your eyes upon the goals or experiences that can lift your spirit, and leave negative feelings behind. When his illness sapped his strength or the challenges of his health pulled him down, Sam would focus on the joyful events he knew were on the horizon. And by looking forward, he always had hope for a better tomorrow. Sadly, Sam passed away in 2014 at the age of 17. Yet his wisdom continues to provide inspiration for us as we search for joy and happiness at the start of this new year. So let us focus first this year on the blessings that we have been given and release the things that we do not have. Big or small, those blessings we already possess can enable us to overcome obstacles, turning perceived deficits into positive experiences. Let us cherish our circles of family and friends who will support us, accept us for who we are, and love us despite our disagreements. In that same spirit, I encourage you to strengthen your circles by joining a temple circle, building deeper relationships that can bring you joy and meaning. And like Sam in 5786, may we keep our eyes looking to the future, holding on to the joyful events that lie in the days ahead, and letting that happiness carry us through whatever challenges we encounter. Friends, may this be a year in which we clap our hands, stamp our feet, and find joy despite whatever is happening in our world. May we be happy as captives to the idea of hope that tomorrow will bring us more joy. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. Amen.